Hello everyone, welcome back to another installment of Home Media Reviews. This review is on the penultimate film from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Avengers Endgame. A lot of people say that the Marvel Cinematic Universe peaked with Avengers Endgame. That's mainly due to the fact that this was what the Infinity Saga had been building up to. It gave fans mostly everything that they wanted from a Marvel Cinematic Universe film and just from a comic book film in general. But there were some naysayers out there who kept saying that this film didn't live up to their own personal expectations, and there are some out there who still claim that this film has gone woke. Dun dun dun, that woke boogeyman term that everybody seems to use to describe anything remotely political these days. To be fair, though, there are some films that I would perceive as woke. Avengers Endgame is not one of them, because in my opinion, saying that Avengers Endgame is woke is like saying that a light bulb could cure cancer one day. The two just don't match. I'll give you more of my opinion later on in the video. For now, let's go ahead and jump right into the history section of Avengers Endgame. So Avengers Endgame hit theaters on April 26th, 2019, a week before it was initially slated to hit theaters. I remember back when this film was in its very late hype stages that Robert Downey Jr. and the Marvel Twitter account had some banter back and forth, and I think we can thank Robert Downey Jr. for getting this pushed up a week. Although I think that was mainly a publicity stunt, but it's kind of funny to think that Robert Downey Jr. had something to do with it. I think that's pretty funny. I, of course, was there opening weekend. I saw this with my brother, who I saw Infinity War with. We saw it on the biggest screen possible, not IMAX. I have seen this in IMAX, but we'll talk about that later. We have this theater in our town that promotes itself as the biggest screen on the market. It has what they call their extreme theaters. Here's something, theater, that I'm not going to name. Just putting your movie on a bigger screen and not properly upscaling it doesn't make it look the best. I mean, it's a cool experience. I saw Wonder Woman on the extreme theater screen. I saw, obviously, Endgame on that. I'm about to see the Super Mario Brothers movie on this extreme theater screen, but I don't expect it to be as great as an IMAX presentation. That may be the film snob in me coming out there, but to me the experiences just aren't comparable. I will say though, my IMAX theater doesn't have recliner chairs, and this theater that I saw Endgame at first, it does have reclining chairs, which came in handy for when me and my brother saw this opening night, because my dumbass bought tickets at the very front of the movie theater, like those first 3 rows that nobody ever wants, that are sold out for huge movies like Endgame. Yeah, we wound up in those seats. And I bought my tickets not 2 days after they went up for sale, and the theater wasn't even sold out. I didn't have to buy those seats. I screwed up and thought that the screen was at the other end of the page that I was looking at. So me and my brother saw Endgame pretty much immersed into the entire movie. My brother says it wasn't a good experience for him. For me, though, it kind of helped to immerse me into the theatrical experience. I'm trying to justify my mistake, but really it was a fun showing. And since we had recliner seats, we weren't breaking our necks trying to watch Endgame. We were just kind of laying down and having to look around occasionally. A few weeks later, I then saw Endgame in IMAX with a friend of mine. The same friend I saw Infinity War with twice, actually. I wonder how she's doing. I don't know why I'm talking like you guys don't know her. Is Haley. She was in a couple of the vlogs back in like 2018. We went to high school together. Haven't talked to her in a while. Again, I wonder what she's up to. This movie looks absolutely breathtaking in IMAX. It's one of the main reasons why I recommend you go and watch it on Disney Plus right now, because oh my gosh, the IMAX presentation for this, it nearly changes the entire experience of the movie. And then a few weeks after that, me and my brother saw Endgame for a second time together, my third time seeing it, because there's a huge marketing blitz that happened that said, hey, you could see some exclusive footage at the end of the movie and an interview with Stan Lee, because he had just recently passed away at this point. So yes, me and my brother happily paid our $12 apiece to go and watch Endgame for a third time, to watch a shitty scene with the Hulk that looks like a PS2 graphic just pasted up there on screen. I get it, it's not finished, but that's the scene that you chose to show us, this special scene that you were hyping up for weeks. It really wasn't worth it. The interview with Stan Lee was pretty cool, though, although I don't remember it being just an interview with him. I remember there being a couple other Marvel creatives there, but that was pretty cool to see. It was like a little tribute type thing to him. Endgame now holds the record for the most amount of times I've seen a movie in the theater. Kind of. It's tied with one other movie, and this is going to require some explanation. I have seen Avengers Endgame and Ice Age Continental Drift 3 times in the theater each. Ice Age Continental Drift I saw with my family first. A couple of friends wanted to see it a few weeks after that, so I saw it again. And then some other family members didn't get a chance to see it, and it was like at the Dollar Theater, so we went to go and see it then, and I saw it a third time. Don't judge me too harshly in the comments section. Avengers Endgame's a better movie. So I have a lot of history with Endgame, as you can probably tell, since we haven't moved past the theatrical release date yet, but we have some Blu-ray and DVD variants to talk about here. The 4K, the Blu-ray, and the DVD all came out on August 13th, 2019. That date should sound familiar to you, because last week, with Iron Man, that was when the 4K Steelbook for Iron Man came out, as well as the standard 4K. They came out alongside each other, and I pre-ordered both of those Steelbooks back when my job actually paid well. The aforementioned Best Buy exclusive Steelbook also came out. I saw a lot of people trashing the Steelbook when it first hit store shelves. I don't really mind it that much. I think it's a cool concept, but there could have been so much more done with it. It's kind of like the Infinity War Steelbook. It's a cool concept, but the artwork and the execution for it could have been so much better. Here comes Target with their trademark exclusive gallery book combo pack, back when Target exclusives were actually good. Although, there was one Target exclusive recently that I almost picked up. It was for Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. That actually had a filmmaker gallery book with it. However, it was just the Blu-ray. And Puss in Boots: The Last Wish looks really good. And I wanted to experience that in 4K, so I got the standard 4K as opposed to the Target exclusive. I'm the problem, okay? But that exclusive was actually pretty cool. If it had a 4K version, I would have totally picked that up. We have to jump back, though, to Best Buy, because the Avengers Assembled 4-movie Steelbook set also came out on August 13th, 2019. This included all 4 of the Avengers films in 4K in individual Steelbook packaging, as well as a giant steel case that wrapped up everything. It looks really nice, and here's what Endgame Steelbook looked like. I do like the running theme with all the A's here. It's pretty friggin' awesome. Endgame's one is probably my favorite. I like the fading A. Kind of cool. Followed closely by the Age of Ultron A, because that one's just beautiful. This one should also sound familiar to you. On November 15th, 2019, the Infinity Saga 4K box set hit store shelves exclusively at Best Buy. Again, we've talked about this with Infinity War, as well as Iron Man. This is a cool set, but I'm never going to justify spending triple, maybe quadruple digits on it, especially when I already own these movies, a lot of them already in 4K. It would be really cool to have, though, but I don't need it. Moving right along to March 23rd, 2021, which brings us to our final release for Avengers Endgame. It was included in a Avengers 4-movie Blu-ray collection. This repackaged the Blu-ray discs from all 4 of the Avengers movies into one compact package. And it came with a digital code for each of the movies, so that's fun. Don't think it had a slipcover, though. That's a bit disappointing. Kind of shocking, though, that that's the end of the history for Avengers Endgame, because this was such a big movie. I mean, it was the center of the pop culture zeitgeist for what felt like months. I mean, people still know who Thanos is. I know a lot of people, myself included, that still quote, "I am inevitable." And yet we only really got one huge assortment of releases back in 2019, and then nothing until 2021 when it was included in a Blu-ray set, a discount one at that, and then no individual 4K reprint, no nothing. I guess I should count the IMAX release of this on Disney Plus, which happened in either 2021 or 2022. Because that is significant. Because for some odd reason, the IMAX versions are not on these discs of Infinity War, of Endgame, of Shang-Chi, of Black Widow, of Black Panther 2, of any of these movies that had scenes or were entirely shot with IMAX film cameras. They're not on the physical releases. They're on the streaming service. I get that you want to boost subscriber numbers, but the average person is not going to care about what aspect ratio their movie is in. Film snobs like myself and picture quality anal retentive assholes, I'll call myself, we're going to care about that kind of stuff. And that's why you should have put the IMAX versions on the actual discs. Again, though, I don't really think people cared because this disc sold like hotcakes. I mean, you can find Endgame Blu-rays and 4Ks and even DVDs at used physical media stores all over the country at this point. But I care, and I wanted to rant about it, so there. So that wraps things up for the history section. Let's move right along to the close-up. Alrighty, everyone. Here's your close-up look at Avengers Endgame. Starting off here with the Best Buy exclusive Steelbook. I remember going into Best Buy, I had pre-ordered this, and I was so excited to pick up my copy of it. Boy, feels like yesterday. Well, actually, it feels like it was about 4 years ago. So the Steelbook has some pretty nice artwork on it. Some people have criticized it, saying it's a bit plain. I kind of agree with that, but I do like the stylistic choice for the artwork. You have the remaining Avengers on the front with the giant A behind them. You got Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, Black Widow, Captain Marvel, Hawkeye, Ant-Man, Okoye, Bruce Banner in the Hulkbuster suit, War Machine, Nebula, and Rocket. I like this. However, I do agree with the criticism of it's a bit plain. I would have liked to have seen some more dynamic artwork. I actually really like the poster art that they used for the standard 4K. I actually considered at one point picking up a standard 4K with the slipcover just because I like the artwork so much, but I decided against it because I don't really need it. But that theatrical poster is gorgeous with the purples and the blacks and everything. It's beautiful, but I do like the Steelbook artwork. The spine, Marvel Studios, Avengers Endgame, Ultra HD Blu-ray down there on the bottom, and the back, you have the dead Avengers with the A logo fading away. Now, this is the part that I really like for this release. You have the Vision, Scarlet Witch, Star-Lord, Loki, he's not an Avenger, Gamora, Mantis, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Drax, Falcon, Black Panther, Groot, and then Winter Soldier, really teeny tiny there in the back, because I guess he was the first one to go. Although, technically, I guess Loki went before him, but Loki's not an Avenger. Why is Heimdall not on here? If Loki gets to be on the back of this, Heimdall should be too. And Gamora, she didn't fade away. She was just killed by Thanos. She didn't turn to dust like the rest of these did. And neither did Vision. He was just killed by Thanos. The whole concept of this artwork is falling apart right here in front of my very eyes. Down here we have Marvel Studios, copyright 2019 Marvel, and then a product number. And we open it up. There's what your 4K disc looks like. A strange artwork choice with Captain America and then Hawkeye with that terrible, terrible haircut. And then your Blu-ray, which I think looks a lot better in terms of artwork, has the famous scene from the start of the movie where Tony Stark is talking to his broken helmet. And the bonus disc is just Black Widow. And then the artwork underneath is the two most prominent Avengers who gave their lives trying to save the universe. Tony Stark with the Robert Downey Jr. signature there, and then Black Widow with Scarlett Johansson's signature there. I really like this interior artwork. It's one of the reasons why I keep this steelbook, because it's so nice. And then for completion's sake, here's what it looks like with all the discs inside of it. Now, knowing me, you guys know I couldn't just stop at owning one copy of one of the greatest films of all time. No, I had to buy it again. And this time I got the Target exclusive variant, because I got it on really deep discount. This was back in the days, one, where Target actually had exclusives worth buying, and two, when they would sit around on their shelves because they were horrendously overpriced at $35, and they would eventually make their way down to around $10 to $15. That's the price I paid for this guy here. And this artwork, wow, really awesome. Avengers Endgame up there at the top, Thanos, all of your characters forming this like pyramid type shape here. I just love this poster so much. It's so cool. The spine, very thick. You got Marvel Studios up there at the top. Endgame logo, Ultra HD, and a product number. The back is Thanos as he's standing on top of the wreckage of the Avengers compound. Very Photoshop-y, because that's a promotional still of Thanos. I know that because I have a cardboard cutout of a pose very similar to this one. Also, he has the Infinity Gauntlet on. So this back shot, I think if you cut the Thanos out, it would look a bit better, because now it just looks very Photoshop-y. Got some copyright information down there at the bottom, Marvel Studios logo. And if we take the slipcover off, even more cool artwork with Tony Stark. Nothing on the spine. The back features Thor as he appears in no less than a third of the movie. And then the other side has a little slot where you would open it up. Black Widow, Captain America. Here's where your gallery book is. It's one of the main reasons why I wanted this. Some more cool artwork there. That's really awesome. You have shadows of all the Avengers that Thanos killed when he snapped his fingers, or at least faded into dust. That's just really awesome. Turn it upside down. God, the artwork is so good for this. And then if we look inside of the gallery book here, it's a look back at some concepts for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like some concept art and stuff. It's a really cool book. Just going through the history of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And we open this up a bit more. You'll notice the artwork on the Blu-ray and the bonus disc is gone. That's exclusive for the Steelbook. So we just have blue for the Blu-ray and the bonus disc. And if you take these out, you will reveal a photo of Hawkeye. The 4K still has its artwork, though. We take this disc out, artwork of Bruce Banner. So it has all 6 original Avengers represented in some way on this package. Now, as far as any exclusive features to the Target exclusive, I don't think there are any. At least I don't remember. I probably mentioned this during the history section when I talk about the Target exclusive, but right now, as I'm shooting this close-up, the only thing that I can recall that's exclusive to the Target variant is the packaging and the gallery book. But that, ladies and gentlemen, wraps up your close-up. Let's move right along to the menu tour. Alright, folks, here are for our menu tours for Avengers Endgame, starting off with the standard Blu-ray disc. This menu looks very similar to Iron Man's menu from last week, with the options down here at the bottom and the clips from the movie playing in the background. We have play, audio commentary, scene selection, and setup. Audio commentary, it's the commentary with Anthony and Joe Russo and writers Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. You can turn that on or off from here. I also have an info tab there. That's the only bonus content that's on the actual Blu-ray. Scene selection. Each one has a title, a number, and a little screenshot. And you even get the little bar down here telling you where you are in the movie. So let's see how many scenes we have in this 3-hour-long masterpiece. 21. That's not a lot of scenes for... You can see the runtime right there. 2 hours and 49 minutes is when the credits start. That's... I thought at least 30, but that's just me. So, but 20 if you don't count the end credits. And for setup, languages, we have a 7.1 mix, a 2.0 mix for English, French 5.1, and Spanish 5.1. And for subtitles, we have English, French, and Spanish. And here we are for the bonus features Blu-ray disc. You wouldn't be blamed if you couldn't tell that the menu had changed at all, or we switched discs. Although the clips playing in the background here are different than the ones on the Blu-ray. So I guess I do kind of blame you if you didn't notice. We also only have 2 options instead of 4. We have bonus features and subtitles. Let's take a look at what subtitles we have first. English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and then those things, Chinese, Japanese. I still don't know what those are. No one's told me. For bonus features, we have some little options here. We have a gag reel. Those are always fun. A section for deleted scenes and a section for featurettes. So we have Remembering Stan Lee, Setting the Tone, Casting Robert Downey Jr., A Man Out of Time, Creating Captain America, Black Widow, Whatever It Takes, the Russo Brothers' Journey to Endgame, The Women of the MCU, and Bro Thor. Now, the Russo Brothers' Journey to Endgame, that one sounds like it would be like a full-fledged documentary type thing, but I'm willing to bet it's only about 6 minutes. You know what? Let's fact-check that right now. So I was wrong. It's actually less than that. It's 5 minutes long. Look, I'm all for having an extra disc for bonus content. I think that's great. It shows that the studio actually cares about physical media fans. But man, was this bonus content lackluster when I first sat down and watched all of it. I mean, it's just... You would think for a movie like Endgame, there would be a huge, sporadic, maybe 2.5 hour long documentary about the making of this and its older brother. But no, we just get a bunch of featurettes. We don't even get a featurette on each of the original 6 Avengers, which is what I think they were going for. There's not one on Hulk, and there's not one on Hawkeye. There's one on Thor, I guess, if you want to count Bro Thor. There's one on Robert Downey Jr., one on Captain America, one on Black Widow, no Hulk, and no Hawkeye love. For deleted scenes, we get a little bit of them. Goji berries, bombs on board, suckiest army in the galaxy, you used to frickin' live here, Tony and Howard and Avengers take a knee. So some pretty good deleted scenes, I guess. Again, I would have liked to have seen more. You don't need to be cagey about this now, Marvel. This movie is turning 4 years old this year. You don't need to be cagey about this now. You didn't need to be cagey back when you put this out on physical media. Everybody saw it. Everybody knows how it ends. Maybe that's just me being nitpicky, though. Speaking of nitpicks, can we talk about how the 4K doesn't have the audio commentary on it? I mean, Disney, it's really not that hard. You can just put the extra audio track in. Oh, by the way, speaking of 4K, 4K menu tour, forgot to mention that. You wouldn't be blamed, though, if you thought I just put the Blu-ray back in because we're missing an option and the clips are the same. Again, no audio commentary on the 4K. That just pisses me off so much. We have play, scene selection, and settings. Scene selection will be exactly the same as on the Blu-ray because nothing gets changed between these except the picture quality. Oh, also no IMAX enhanced version on 4K. That's something that's a real sticking point for me. But yeah, 21 scenes, 20 if you don't count the credits. Settings is where things get different. Languages, we have a Dolby Atmos track, a 2.0 English track, a French 5.1 track, and a Spanish 7.1 track. I just accidentally selected that. Why no love for the French? Why do they only get 5.1 but Spanish gets 7.1, huh? And for subtitles, English, French, and Spanish, I'm surprised we don't get any Portuguese love on here. Disc languages, exactly the same as your subtitles. I'm making it sound like I don't like this home video release for Endgame. I love this movie to death. I just think that this release could have been so much better. You could have had the IMAX enhanced version here. You could have had the audio commentary on the 4K, and it could have been amazing. But no, we have to watch the IMAX version on Disney+. But I'm going to save my further thoughts on that for the ending wrap-up session, which we're moving into now because we're done with the close-up. Let's answer the 5 main questions. Hooray. Alright, so we're back from the close-up. Now it's time to answer the 5 main questions, as always. Number 1, where can you pick this product up? You can find it at a lot of used physical media stores. I think you might still be able to find that 4-movie collection on store shelves right now, but don't quote me on that. Number 2, is this product still being printed nowadays? Nah, can't say yes to that one, unless you count the Disney Plus version, which that's not a physical release, so I don't even know why I bring that up. It's just, why they put that on Disney Plus and not on the physical release? It just makes me so angry. I don't know if you guys know this, but that makes me really upset. I know it's hard to tell, right? Number 3, should you pick this product up? I don't think it's any secret that Avengers Endgame is going to get probably the biggest recommendation I could ever give, especially since I've been calling this and its older brother Infinity War the greatest film duology that I've seen in my time. And I still believe that, to a certain extent. I'm going to be using my Instagram review from 2019 as sort of structure points to go through this movie. So let's go ahead and talk about it, because this is a long movie at almost 3 hours. Well, actually 3 hours and 1 minute if you count credits, but actual movie time is about 2 hours and 49 minutes. I gotta say, though, for almost 3 hours, the movie flies by every time I've seen it. I watched this twice for this review. I watched my normal 4K copy that I have on disc, and then I watched the IMAX version on Disney+. And that 3 hours just flies by. This movie has such great pacing to it. For starters, I love how we get to see how these characters react to losing, because that was a huge thing back in Infinity War. These characters had never really suffered any kind of significant loss. You could kind of say Quicksilver in Age of Ultron, but did they really know him that well? We, the audience, didn't know him that well. We got to know his sister way more in the following films and TV series, but they had really not suffered a huge loss like, I don't know, half of the universe's population going away. And now, in the first 30 minutes of this movie, about 30 to 45 minutes here, we get to see Black Widow, Steve Rogers, Tony Stark, Rhodey, Thor, Captain Marvel, Rocket, Nebula, and Hulk really just stew in this sadness that, like, they failed. Like, they really have to grapple with that whole concept. I love the start of Endgame because it's such a contrast to Infinity War. It's a quiet scene with Hawkeye and his family, and it really shows the terror of what happened to all of these characters who lost people. If you weren't looking directly at the person who turned to dust, 1 minute they're there, next minute they're gone. You have no idea what happened to them. That's what happens to poor Hawkeye, and it's a bone-chillingly cold scene to watch, but it's a fantastic way to open up Endgame. And each character arc for every one of our main characters all feels so satisfying. Nebula tries to regain some touch with her humanity. Same with Rhodey. They have a couple of great scenes together stealing the orb back in 2014. Thor has a fantastic arc with learning that he doesn't have to be this amazing badass to be a hero. He can fail and still recover. That scene with his mom was so good. Rocket has to learn to trust a new family since his old family is now gone and he has no idea if they're ever coming back or not. He learns to trust his new family. Steve Rogers and Tony Stark patch up their relationship, and Tony realizes that it's his sacrifice that can save everyone, even if he wants to stay alive for his wife and his daughter, which, by the way, Morgan Stark, amazing, great child performance there. The scenes with him and his daughter are some of the best in the entire movie. That's mommy's word. She coined it. It belongs to her. Now go to bed, or I'll sell your toys. When I become a father, Tony Stark is who I'm striving to be. I will use that line on my kid. Now go to bed, or I'll sell your toys. I'm sorry to my future child who sees this video and hears me laughing about this. That quiet scene, though, with Tony and Pepper as she's reading that book on composting, and he's trying so desperately to convince himself that the Avengers don't need him, and it's Pepper who pushes him to basically commit suicide by going on this adventure and fighting Thanos one last time. Like, even Pepper knows that the world needs Tony Stark, but Tony Stark knows that he doesn't need the world. He wants Pepper and his daughter. So what's new with composting? Well, I mean, it's pretty standard. Yeah, I figured it out. By the way. And just so we're on the same page, I'm talking about time travel. We got really lucky. Yeah, we did. A lot of people didn't. Yeah, well, I can't help everybody. It kind of seems like you can. Not if I stop. Yeah, I could put a pin in it right now. I could just throw it in a locked box in the bottom of the lake and then go to bed. But would you be able to rest? I can't do the scene justice here, but that's just my impression, and it's one of the best scenes in the movie. I've grown up as a person because I'm not just talking about how great the action is. The character moments are great too. So many great character moments sprinkled throughout this movie. Especially with Ant-Man, who is not dead, as they all thought. He was just stuck in the quantum realm, and he's more than just a plot device here. I mean, his basic function is a plot device to move everything forward. It's him coming back that gives the Avengers the idea to use the quantum realm to go back in time and to pull a so-called time heist. No, I'm sorry, Scott. Are you telling me that your entire concept of time travel is based on Back to the Future? Well, no. Oh, good. Because that'd be horseshit. That's not how quantum physics works. Speaking of time travel, it is a huge component throughout Avengers Endgame, and I've heard some criticism about how the time travel exactly works. Here's my theory as to how Captain America came back to the present day at the end after he lived his life with Peggy Carter, since this movie establishes the rule of if you go back in time, and then if you change anything that happens in that past, that then branches off into a separate timeline, a separate universe, per se. However, those little dial things that Tony Stark made, he says specifically that those were made to return each team member to a time and a place. So technically, if Steve Rogers kept his little time dial thing for all 70 plus years, he was back in the 1940s with Peggy Carter, he could have then traveled back to this universe, the Endgame one, and been there to give his shield to Sam Wilson. It's a bit confusing. It takes some brain power to actually think up a theory that makes sense for that. It could have been explained a little bit better, though, but to me, it makes sense. I've also seen some criticism as to how Thanos' ship made it back to 2023 in this movie? Oh, well, how did Thanos get his big ship in there? All he had was the little tiny pin particle. You're telling me that Thanos doesn't have, like, really good scientists that could replicate a pin particle? Pin particle is Earth technology. I mean, to aliens like Thanos, our technology is nothing short of, that's kind of cool. So, to me, my theory is he had some scientists replicate the pin particle. Maybe it was Ebony Maw that did it. Maybe it was one of his kids, or Proxima Midnight maybe did it. And that's how his ship made it back to present day. Also, since Nebula was there in present day, she could call Thanos' ship to present day and pull it through time. That's also a possibility. That's just what I think. It's not confirmed in the film or not, but I don't think it necessarily breaks its own rules like some people have said. It does make for one hell of an ending fight, because that last hour of Endgame, this is what people came to see. The last hour of Avengers Endgame is a live-action comic book on screen, and it is glorious. Seeing Captain America wield Mjolnir for the very first time, I mean, the entire theater stood up and applauded for that. I'm not kidding. We gave him a standing ovation because it was so fucking cool. And it is still so cool whenever I see that on screen. Whenever I'm watching it at home, I fist bump every single time. It is so awesome. Iron Man's tech is out of the freaking ballpark throughout this entire movie. Thor is overpowered to shit, but it is amazing to watch him charge up Tony's lasers and blast the crap out of Thanos. And when everyone comes together and you hear Captain America utter those favored words, Avengers, assemble. And they all go running towards Thanos' army, and the Avengers theme is blaring in the background. Another standing ovation. The first night we saw it, standing ovation. Everybody clapped and cheered. That was amazing. We looked like a bunch of white people, but who cares? It was awesome. And then I got to admit it, guys. I almost cried when Tony Stark snaps his fingers and says the fateful line, "I am Iron Man." Boom. Thanos turns to dust, and he's just laying there, and half of his face is, like, basically gone at this point, and you hear Friday say his life functions are critical. I'm like, you can't do that. If you watched Bad Batch this last week, I won't say spoilers here just in case anybody hasn't seen it yet, but I had a similar reaction to the Bad Batch of, you can't do that I did in Avengers Endgame when Iron Man dies. It's so trivial to say it now, like, oh yeah, Iron Man dies in Avengers Endgame. When it happened, it was so monumental. And the funeral that he gets, that was when I got choked up. At when the wreath floats in the water, and it's that arc reactor from the first Iron Man that says proof that Tony Stark has a heart, I almost lost it. There's only a few movies I've ever almost shed tears in. Logan is one of them, and Avengers Endgame is one of the other ones. You'll notice I haven't talked about Black Widow's death yet, because that was also surprising when that first happened. I thought, holy crap, they killed Black Widow. But I didn't have a similar, you can't do that reaction. I was like, yeah, it makes sense. Her and Hawkeye had to go and get the Soul Stone. One of them had to die in order to get it. We knew it as the audience, as dramatic irony. None of the other characters knew it. so it made for extra tension when they were fighting one another to kill themselves to get the Soul Stone. But her death really does play like a repeat of Gamora's death. They even use the same music, which I get it. It's to evoke a similar emotional response, and it works on me most of the time. But when I stop and think about it, I'm like, yeah, this is a cheap emotional trick to try to get me to feel as bad for Black Widow's death as I did for Gamora's death. And the fact is, I don't feel that bad for Black Widow. I mean, yeah, it sucks that she died, and she probably could have had a prospering career moving forward in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, especially with Scarlett Johansson playing her, but somebody had to go. And I'm kind of happy it wasn't Hawkeye, because I like Hawkeye in this movie. He's one of the best characters in it. He's got one of the best character arcs in it. Although his haircut, very, very stupid. Probably one of the worst haircuts I've ever seen in any movie ever made. It's awful. And the tattoos and everything. Hawkeye, what'd you do to yourself, man? If Hawkeye had died, though, we wouldn't have got the brilliant Disney Plus show. That is, in fact, the best Marvel show that's on the platform right now. So, sacrifices have to be made. You know who I haven't talked about, though, aside from Black Widow and her death? Thanos. Josh Brolin, once again, absolutely kills it as this character, and I'm kind of sad that we're not gonna see him again. Well, I guess we technically did in What If, because Josh Brolin played Thanos in that animated show, which, that was kind of fun, but the real badass Thanos that we saw in Infinity War, he's killed within the first, 10 minutes, which leads into Thor's great character arc of basically becoming depressed. Because while he did lop off Thanos' head, it really didn't change much. It didn't change anything at all, actually. He still feels like a failure at the end of the day. And for 5 years has been the embodiment of gluttony, as all he does is drink beer and play Fortnite. Another great scene where Hulk shows up at his house and says Thanos, and he says that Thor's afraid of him. Why'd I be afraid of that guy? I'm the guy who killed that guy, remember? Korg, would you kindly remind them who chopped Thanos' big head off? Stormbreaker? Yeah, well, who was swinging Stormbreaker? I'm getting off track here. Thanos. Great. It's interesting, though, that the past Thanos is more brash than the future Thanos, I guess I'll call him. 2014 Thanos is a younger, more brash Thanos than the one that we've been used to seeing. I don't think that 2017 Thanos or 2019 Thanos or whatever year that Infinity War takes place in, I don't think that he would ever try to shred the universes down to their last atom and then rebuild them from the ground up. I mean, just snapping his fingers to wipe out half of the population nearly killed him. So it is kind of weird, though, how at the beginning of 2014 Thanos' entrance, he's talking and monologuing like his future self, like he's not younger. His alternative is death. And Ronan's obsession, it clouds his judgment. I wouldn't chalk that up to inconsistent characterization, though. I think he's just trying to act like he's all big and mighty, as he doesn't really have any Infinity Stones yet. And by 2019, he realizes, I don't have to act like that. I can just do what I want because these people don't know what's best for them. And it is pretty satisfying to see him turn to dust at the end. It's really funny when he pulls the I am inevitable line and you think, oh no, something's going to happen. But then, haha, irony, he has no stones anymore. Because Iron Man's nanotechnology sucked them all up. How is it, though, that Iron Man is able to make a gauntlet that can withstand the power of these stones, but yet Eitri the dwarf back in Infinity War, it took him a while to build that gauntlet, I guess. But Tony, he can do it in an afternoon because nanotechnology. Unfortunately for Endgame, it led to the massive onslaught of nanotechnology in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's even present here with the Ant-Man suits that everybody wears to go back in time with. And I just gotta say it, Marvel, stop with the nanotechnology. I'm kind of quoting a video by, I think it was Brown Table, one of my new favorite YouTubers, but the nanotechnology, it doesn't feel real anymore. I mean, it didn't really feel real in Endgame, but it certainly doesn't feel real in something like Quantum Mania, where all of a sudden Scott can just tap his chest a few times and poof, there's his Ant-Man outfit. When Iron Man does it, it's cool. When Ant-Man does it, it makes you wonder, how the hell did he get his hands on nanotechnology? I think the word that I would use to describe Endgame and its predecessor is epic. These movies have such huge scopes, so many characters, a lot of action scenes, and a hell of a lot of effects. And yet Marvel pulled it off. They were able to give us 2 films that have a cohesive storyline, that make you care about everyone on screen, that get you invested in each character's arc, and make you want to just bawl your eyes out when your favorite Marvel character dies, or one of your favorites, at least for me, and then your other favorite Marvel character grows old and gives his shield away to Sam Wilson. I'm going to read you here something that I wrote verbatim back in 2019, and I think it still rings true today. It's really a shame that some, parentheses, elitist douchebag Bill Maher, end parentheses, will shove this off as, quote, just a silly superhero movie, unquote. It isn't. It's so much more. It's got heart, action, and comedy in the right moments, drama in the right moments, and amazing special effects that are groundbreaking for our time, and they still are today. Thanos looks photoreal. It is amazing how good that these effects look. The action sequences are breathtaking. They are just so amazing. That final hour is just something to behold. And each character gets a satisfying arc and a satisfying conclusion to most of their stories. I really cannot comprehend how people could not walk out of Endgame and not like it. The biggest criticism I've heard is that Captain Marvel is apparently in the movie because people will find a chance to hate Brie Larson at any point in time. And also that scene on the battlefield where all the women get together. Okay, yeah, I get it. It's not plausible that they would all be on the battlefield together at the exact same time, but who cares? Don't let that ruin the entire film for you. If you let that ruin the experience of Endgame, I don't know what to tell you, bud. I love Endgame and I love Infinity War so much. These are some of my favorite films, maybe in my top 20 or 30 films of all time list. I mean, these are so special to me personally. I could not give Endgame anything less than the highest recommendation I could have possibly given anything on this show. I say that a lot. I probably said it last week with Iron Man, but Endgame is so good. And it was the peak of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't think any film since then has reached the heights of Endgame, and I'm kind of worried that these next 2 Avengers films won't reach those heights either. I have no doubt that Secret Wars will probably be fun, will probably be a lot of nostalgic callbacks, but as far as making me feel as many emotions as Endgame did, I don't know. I'm a little worried for it. I'm not worried, though, much for Kang Dynasty, since I know that Jonathan Majors as Kang will be in that movie, and Kang was the best part of Quantum Mania, so he'll at least be fun to watch in that. But yes, if there was ever any doubt, I recommend you watch Avengers Endgame. I actually would recommend you watch these back to back, Infinity War and Endgame. A few years ago when I was riding to, I think, either Hilton Head or Florida, I watched these back to back on our second day down. We had a 5-hour drive, and both of these movies together hit about 5.5 hours. So it was a perfect excuse to watch both of them. And boy, was that a fun experience. Yes, it was on a little tablet-sized Blu-ray player that I was bringing with me, but wow, that was an experience that I'll never forget, and I recommend you do the same if you haven't already. Number 4, where should you pick this product up? Pretty much anywhere you can find it. It shouldn't be that hard to find now. And number 5, what price should you pay? Shoot, man, the 4K probably worth about the same as it was back in the day. Maybe it's dropped a little bit since then, probably worth about $20. Blu-ray, $10. You can find that thing anywhere. DVD, I haven't really seen that much at used physical media stores. So I can't really give you a price on that one. Maybe 5 to 10? The Steelbook I know goes for a little bit more than the MSRP. Same with the Target exclusive. The Steelbook set, I'm not even going to give you a price for that because that's probably blown out the wazoo. And the Infinity Saga set, probably in the thousands of dollars at this point. So that wraps up the home media review for Avengers Endgame. This one's been a long time coming. I think I said everything I wanted to say about it. It's one of my personal favorite films of all time. I love pretty much everything about it, and the 3 hours fly by every time I watch it. As far as which of these would I prefer, Infinity War or Endgame? Infinity War just has more fun to it. If I'm in sort of like a quasi-depressive mood, that sounds bad, but if I'm in sort of like a downbeat kind of mood, and I just want something to make me feel emotion? It sounds like I'm an emotionless robot when I say that, but when those feelings come around, then I'll watch Endgame and I'll feel like, oh my gosh, this is so good. I love this movie so much. But if I'm in like a happy, jovial mood, I'll watch Infinity War, even though that ends in tragedy. Let's be real though, if I watch Infinity War, a few days later, I'm going to watch Endgame. That always ends up happening. I can't watch one without the other. They're like yin and yang. So, as I stated in my update video that I posted back in January, Season 5 of Home Media Reviews is now officially underway. Well, it's been officially underway for the last few weeks with this video and then the Iron Man one, but now we can really start getting into the main genre of this season, action. And what better way to kick off a action-related season of home media reviews than with a kind of forgettable action movie that came out back in 2019 that not a lot of people remember, but it's very significant to me. And it stars Gerard Butler. That movie is Angel Has Fallen. It's the third installment of the tentative Has Fallen series with Olympus Has Fallen, London Has Fallen, and now Angel Has Fallen. We'll be covering that next week. Thank you all so very much for watching. I will see you all then. Good night, everybody.